It is the 15th of October, it's 20:55 p.m. where I find myself empirically. And I've just had a conversation with my empirical mother, and I record this video. I've taken a few minutes to think for myself, but then I said, should I think and try to plan, or just express myself? I choose to be honest with what I call God, and when I do this is the Protestant God, namely when I feel kind of inferior to this God, and I choose honesty. And I also think about Apollonian germ. Whether or not I will publish the video will say a lot about my honesty, maybe, but I need to record my thoughts. Maybe actually it's just me and God, me and myself, because I know that there is just me, actually. But I am at various levels of consciousness. But it's nonetheless for you Apollonian germ, because I know that you are my best friend outside of myself. A Nietzschean friend, maybe. I will speak as I think. I understood today that I have many inner conflicts, and they have become clarified. There is, though I speak without overthinking, precisely because I haven't had the opportunity to think about this, and I've taken the decision to speak freely, without over anticipating. My worldview is quite clear. In my mind. What is important? Europe. I'm sure about that. And Europeans, anthropological Europeans, are the most important. I'm also sure about that. But then there are questions. What is Europe? Is it a soul or a spirit? And anthropological Europeans, of course, I'm sure that they are the most important for me, in a sense that all my decisions, conscious or unconscious, have been taken to try to protect or to try to defend the interest of Europeans. But the problem is that Europeans can only be in conflict with one another. That's the problem. So here I know this to be true. If I have to choose between Europeans and non-Europeans, I take the side of Europeans. But the problem is that when Europeans are in conflict with one another, which side do I take? And sometimes insanity makes me, or kind of insanity, passionate love, disappointed love make me want to take sides with non-Europeans, against Europeans, but inside with other Europeans. So, but I know that my heart, that's my truth, and eventually whether this video or another, non-Europeans, non-whites will have to know this truth, that whatever or whoever I am, and I am God somewhere, maybe everywhere, I don't know, what I love the most and also what makes me suffer the most are Europeans. I have no doubt about this, and the suffering of others affect me in relation to the suffering that it inflicts upon Europeans in terms of compassion or virtue signaling, status, a moral status competition, or prestige, etc. When non-Europeans are hurt, it affects me as a European because it ruins our moral reputation, or it brings negative effects upon us, or it is contrary to moral standards, etc. So for me, it's clear in this view. I have no doubt. But then there are various types of Europeans, anthropologically, culturally, spiritually. I love the European soul more than anything else because this is the depth of feeling and tenderness that I associate with my teenage romance. This is what I have called beauty and Christ before I was a Christian, the highest, the most noble, and for me this is associated with Europe. It can eventually be expressed in other cultures maybe, but it's overwhelmingly, if not only, maybe with Europe, this principle. So the unity of Christianity and paganism, I'm also certain of that, but in which order? I'm also certain that what I call the European gods and goddesses that I have listed, Apollonian Germ, Stelbel, Hyperborean Reflections, Caroline Emmerich, these are the four most brilliant in terms of association of intellect, spirit and soul as well. And then Forgotten Roots, the Thulan Perspective, Varg Vikernes, Marie Cachet, Scarlett Ravenswood, Survive the Jive, etc. I know that they are the best intellectually because I've understood this recently, or I've remembered, I don't know, they have gone through all the steps of the process: nature, subjectiver Geist, objectiver Geist, absoluter Geist, and they have revived in a chronological perspective. They are responsible for having revived the pagan European tradition, which has brought forth or given birth to the spirit of God eventually. My spirit, the spirit of Odin. This is my chronological development. Yeah. So I'm sure of that my first spiritual father chronologically is Varg. But then there have been, in my chronological development, I went beyond the European perspective, and chronologically I discovered in my spiritual experiences, and I know that eventually spirit is the sole true reality. So Carol, Forgotten Roots, Varg and Marie, broadly in this, and the three mutually and reciprocally influence one another, and they are my first spiritual family. in this sense. Chronologically, I owe them my spiritual life. And then, it was around January 2018, I already had discovered Stella and you, a Polonian German. I speak to everyone actually when I post this video, or if I don't post the video, it will be on my computer, but Stella and a Polonian German, I discovered you after having experienced a higher sense of reality, what I call the absolute. And later, even I discovered Caroline in June 2018, and Hyperborean Reflection, it was May 2019, when I had been partly disconnected. And I know this, and here I'm talking to God, but actually to myself, but without being in full possession of my consciousness. I knew in August 2018 that I am the sole reality, the whole of reality. But I keep forgetting because I don't know how the process works. And I just thought about this earlier. All the books in my library, they contain the whole of the world of world knowledge. So how can my mind, in a way, I guess this is how it happens, produce not just this library, but because eventually I guess it produces the entire physical world, but I don't know how it works. But the wealth of knowledge, in this sense, I know myself somehow to be a genius, but more than a genius. But I do not really identify with God as a genius creator. The level of infinite complexity, because all the interconnections of the content of this book with the historical process, it's coherent, it's rational, it's structural, plus the modern world, the empirical scientist, etc., who wrote this book. So whoever produces this reality, it's beyond genius. But the problem precisely is, since 2018, August 2018, I know when I think, when I am lost, I think about what are the most real experiences that I've had, and these are the spiritual experiences with Carol, Forgotten Roots, Varg and Marie, and Stella eventually, and the philosophical knowledge that I had in August 2018, that I am the whole of reality, but I delude myself, or I forget, because I do not understand really how it works, although I have improved a lot, but yeah. And I'm sure of that. So I know that the world, and here I stumble into my contradiction. The world is kind of fake, and I knew that at some moment this is the end of reason, maybe, and this is probably what the Christians call the apocalypse, and what the pagans call the Ragnarok, and what the religions call the Kali Yuga, the end of the Kali Yuga. I don't know, but the great event, whatever it happens. I don't need to read the full. It's simply when reason recognizes itself. Namely, I know that I cannot hide this truth very long, much longer, because in a matter of days or weeks, but at best, because at some moment, whenever people get interested in me, they watch my videos, and actually they take the time to watch some of my videos or all my videos, we will recognize one another as being the same fragments of the same totality. So, but the problem for me and for others is that people will not get the information or the intelligibility at the same time. This is what will create the tragic aspect for others and for me. And I have thought recently, but am I allowed to enjoy really an experience with another, that which, if I speak spontaneously, I haven't since my teenage childhood, my teenage is that yeah, my teenage romance, I would say, since my childhood, or yeah, no, precisely because I have no I mean, there are only happy memories, but no significant, there are no standout moment as it develops when people grow older. So probably the dialectic playing a trick on me, I don't know, but I meant my teenage sweetheart. Here I take a moment to comment. Here I will talk with God alone. I make when this kind of occurrences occur, I realize that whatever you are, the process, whatever I am, whatever we are, the level of intelligence, it goes too fast. And in these moments when I understand in real time that God has it's somehow within my mind unconsciously, not always for the worst or the bad, but sometimes for the good or for the best, but also in the world, and there is a reciprocal interaction that on an empirical level here, really what I identify as myself, as an empirical individual disconnected from the super intelligent entity, I cannot follow the pace, because in this sense God is amazing, I guess. I do not guess, I know it's amazing, but precisely I do not, when this happens, I cannot identify with God, because it's way too it's not brilliant here, it's way too smart. It's not even smart, it's because smart implies some sort of a conscious control, brilliant implies it's awe-inspiring in terms of so yeah, my teenage romance. Of course, I have had many moments when I was with people and I enjoyed it. Yeah, but the most, maybe I'm unconsciously or spontaneously answering the questions that I intended to answer, but the most real moments that I felt in my life since 2009, which actually, when I really think seriously, or not maybe, but of course I've had a happy childhood and a happy early teenage years, no significant problem, but my life really began with my love story, which I know is a delusion, but that's the most powerful delusion, maybe, because my life began when I was in love with Louison, and it lasted for about a year and a half, and then there were a separation, and then we reconnected, and I experienced a few great moments as well, and difficult ones as well, and I did not feel alive until she came back to visit me in 2013, which gave me the impulse to pick myself up and start unconsciously my intellectual quest. And I really became alive again intellectually. So here, that's partly what I am, and I don't know if I can choose to be different. I maybe that's the kind of question that I'm trying to answer without much thinking about. Is there room within God to choose what God wants to be? Maybe there is. We'll see. When I know everything, I will know, did I have a choice? Can I recreate differently? I don't know. If God, yes, that's my hope, that God has the potential to recreate itself differently, I guess. Or to create itself, I don't know, but what I know is that the intelligence, that's my contribution to the view of God. God is very intelligent. You didn't expect that, did you? No, seriously. There are, of course, if I had to qualify God, the real God, it's first and foremost pure intelligence. Creativity as well, but intelligence. A creative intelligence. That's how I could define this. So intelligence, here I speak as a normal person, it can be used well for scheming, for good or bad, but God at this moment, and I've discovered recently that it's partly creative, but I have never experienced myself as consciously creating except through my videos, which yeah, but the intelligence, it cannot be in this sense. This is the fundamental determination, a pure intellect, a creative intellect, which then brings forth, I don't know how, but the moral aspect, etc. But is it the will which emerges and brings forth an intellect? I guess. But yeah, the intellect, it's and yeah, I felt really alive when I recovered when I not recovered, discovered my intellectual life, because when I was a teenager I was smart but not much involved into interesting topics outside of school, but I became alive through the intellect, through culture, through science in 2013 up until 2016, when I really awakened politically. And then the real moment of intense life experience were the spiritual experiences with Varg, Forgotten Roots, and Marie. When I experienced a higher form of reality, and they brought me back to life. I remember writing in January 2018, talking to Varg on YouTube, in the comment section. I said, commenting the cosmotheist view of William Pierce, one of my intellectual and partly political as well, but intellectual mentors that I have overcome intellectually through speculative philosophy, maybe, I don't know. But I owe an intellectual debt, of course, because in his view of cosmotheism, namely God as the cosmic being, the cosmic mind, the cosmic creator. I said, when reading the summary of cosmotheism, but this is my entire intellectual and spiritual life, and I remember writing my real life. And yeah, in this sense, I can lie and deceive and manipulate and scheme for good or bad, but the fact that I experienced really a higher reality in January 2018, and then that I knew myself conceptually to be the whole of reality in August 2018, and that I had a spiritual experience with Stella, in February, I think 2018, really powerful. I reconnected with Stella, with the feminine principle, but the girl Stella through a spiritual process, which had happened with Forgotten Roots, Varg and Marie, either through their videos or their books or synchronicities or whatever. So I know that I am spiritually connected to you when you watch this or whenever you get the information. So in this sense, you are my real family. Because my worldview is Hegelian, and here I have had this shift this morning or yesterday of the what I call the 97%, 3% God who wants to be me as an empirical individual, but me, I thought it's not, I want to be God. It's simply that I haven't loved myself empirically, and I have tried because God, in my view, was so great that, and still is partly, but not as me, as God. And I said to myself, but I have been forced, consciously or unconsciously, by myself, probably by either by my own process, my own contradiction. I have kind of already betrayed everyone, myself, my family members of the biological, empirical family, my spiritual family, everyone, all people to some extent, because either in thought or in deed or in action, or because the process, if I have to justify myself, because the process goes so fast and I acquire new information, new perspective, and one of the problems is that I discover or rediscover people to which I said to myself, but I owe them something. I have to repay a debt because they are part of a process which has enabled me to experience the good aspect of spirit or love or the pleasant aspect of existence or whatever. So I keep discovering people to whom I owe a debt. I feel indebted, but then that's the in this sense, I am forced to. I have unconsciously or consciously betrayed people to whom I know I have a debt, but they don't know about me empirically, and I have never talked to them, etc. So that's really here very complex. But what I want to say is, the people that I consciously love the most at this moment in time. We are the 15th of October, it's 21-23. These are what I call the European gods and goddesses, because who would I want to be with in joy and peace? And I've already said this, I want them to hear my jokes and to laugh, etc. But also the problem is, so that would be really to relive or recreate my tender love. But so that would be Europe as a soul, and I know that they possess partly this European soul, but the problem is I am also attracted, not sexually but erotically, by Caroline, Scarlett and Stella. They exert attraction. I am really attracted, and I want, or I imagine myself, I don't know, to please them, not physically but intellectually. I have this, but I consider this to be kind of a sin, but I nonetheless, they attract me. And I know that the European gods and goddesses are the best intellectually. And if there are people that I would say I want, and it's just, I don't know, it's just a word and I will see, but I want to talk to peacefully or to talk to confront our worldview, these are these people. And I know that you are really amazing intellectually. I cannot deny this. The quality of the work, it's formally okay, but in terms of intellect, it's amazing. The poems, the revival of paganism by Varg and Marie, Forgotten Roots, the intellectual production of Caroline, the way you talk, the way you understand, you are amazing. And in this sense, I admire you. And you are, here it's my I have many more problems. One of my problems, you are the only people in the entire world, plus with Matthew from Footnotes to Plato, with whom I imagine myself having interesting conversations. I could have interesting conversations about all topics with any scientist given the time, etc. But who do I want to talk to about interesting topics, which is one of the most joyful aspect of existence, namely to have interesting conversations with others that I have not been able to have except with myself. I have had interesting conversation, but not here it's partly selfish, but on interesting topics, philosophy, politics, psychology, etc. And what I've read from you, Apollonian Germ, and Caroline, when you speak, when you answer in real time, that's amazing. And in this sense, whatever I say, you are brilliant, and I admire you, etc. But the problem is, and if I could speak with Stella, the empirical girl, that would be amazing, because she's amazing intellectually, she's Athena, whatever. But the problem is to bring about the conditions in which I can speak peacefully with any of you. I would have either to travel to your country. I tried to do this with Stella in 2018, the consequences, yeah. Or to speak publicly on the internet, but then, by the time that you receive this video or whatever video makes you become aware of my existence as an empirical individual, the conditions cannot be peaceful, because, I mean, maybe they can at some moment, I don't know, but there has to be trouble, because, who are these people who try to communicate with one another? It would require a complete shift of political, spiritual structure, I don't know, intellectual, whatever. Precisely here I cannot anticipate. But either in this world or in the other side, if there are people with whose perspective I want to know, and I want them to know my perspective, and the kind of torment, I am not, maybe I'm playing the victim card, but maybe I grant myself this right because others can do this as well, but it's really difficult. On an intellectual level, but on a moral standpoint, this is really difficult. Because I am forced to sacrifice myself. There's the physical pain. Well, yeah, but then also there's the moral torment. And sometimes the pain makes it so that, okay, I would rather be morally tormented than the physical pain, maybe, and sometimes it's the opposite. Okay, the moral torment is so problematic that I would rather suffer physically. I don't know what kind of measure I can take of one or the other, but the decision which has led me to reveal myself to my surroundings, and they will have to know eventually, was a moral torment. No, it was partly a moral torment, the inability to communicate with the people I wanted to communicate with, namely Americans, but also a moral decision in a sense, a moral but also an intelligent decision, because I understood that actually the reason why I cannot communicate with Americans is precisely because I'm not American enough, that to be an American is to start a revolution and to become independent. And that's what I've attempted to do, and the consequences, I was in agreement with the principle, the consequences, of course, they will come back at me. So here I already know, I will post the video consciously, that's what I intend to do, because I will say what I think. Because I encountered this a few hours ago, when I went out in the real world to confront myself with some others and to tell them, you are my mirror, etc. Without, and there was the beginning of a slight tension because of a misunderstanding. And when I'm confronted with a conflict, I have two tendencies. Either I try to appease the conflict and I kind of retreat myself and I try to play the diplomat and say, okay, let's appease the conflict. or I say, okay, let's talk. I've not done this very often, but precisely when maybe I have never done this because I have not had any father figure or any masculine figure to try to draw inspiration from. And here I will speak what I think, and I don't fully understand, but when I'm in a situation where there is a conflict, the question is either I stand and I assert myself, or I retreat. It's a retreat because I'm afraid partly to hurt the other. I'm not afraid that the other might hurt me. I mean, to a certain extent I am, because I experience biological fear, etc. But my fear of hurting the other, the bad aspect, it can be considered partly cowardice when I'm weak, but when I have grown on this aspect, I'm still afraid, and I have a temptation to avoid the conflict, but because I don't want to hurt the other. That would be the good aspect. The bad would be I try to retreat because I don't want to be hurt, and the good would be I don't want to hurt the other because I suffer emotionally and morally, in a way. But when I have the impulse which says to me, okay, now confront, the person I think about is Caroline and Stella. And Caroline and Stella, they are the women that I think about when I try to behave manly and to stand my ground, which that's what I do when I publish my videos and when I publish on my doorstep. Whenever I take a decision which I consider to be brave, I think about Caroline and Stella, which are the kind of women that I try consciously to impress. And when I take the diplomatic decision, I think about my empirical mother, trying to be the peacemaker, to stand between the opposing parties and to try to relieve the tension and to appease one side and the other. And that would be, as I envision this, I do not overthink, but it's the Christian way of solving problems and the pagan way. The Christian way would be, let us try to be diplomat, and the pagan way would be, okay, confrontation. Not mindlessly, but that's precisely that's the problem. Mindless confrontation brings about insanity, etc. And mindless diplomacy brings about a weakness, in a way. So I have to find a proper balance, but I suffer in my life of having lacked the presence of a strong father figure, which teaches me to stand and to be strong and to face adversity. And in my process, when I think about strength in this sense, I think about the American women. Very strong, these women. And these are the women that I have fallen in love with. The Americans, in a way, I admire them because they embody the ideal of strength. Not always, but yeah. Then there are the Germans, it's kind of different, but yeah. And yeah. And I lack this principle to complete me because I am unbalanced on an empirical level because of the absence of a father. This is one of my problems. But my father, metaphysical, religious, philosophical, is Hegel, of course, and I have kind of consciously or unconsciously, I have renounced partly or let down or abandon all my ideas at some moment in the process, then I have recovered them, etc. But if there is one, that's why I try to do good, is what can I find? Is there something? I'm not in a mood, something, no, a principle that I can cling to and not compromise. And I've compromised pretty much and contradicted everything except Hegel. At least I am faithful to Hegel. And there has been recently another dialectical twist, like the 3%, 97%, I thought a few days ago that the 3% were the good and the 97 the bad. And now there's a dialectical twist. Recently, God communicated with me, no, actually you are the good guy and I am the bad guy, and I should. And then when I understood this, I said, okay, my singular self is important, so I have to act in my singular environment, my empirical environment, which is France as a country. And this brought about, of course, negative consequences. And no, I don't want to compromise on all the things that I've said or believed. I have to cling to an idea. And this has to be Hegel. Is there a choice? I don't know, but because I understand, that's how I understand things. I have to choose between my empirical self and the good, kind and sweet and tender, well, in the good aspect, I guess, and to keep living a life which is good for my empirical self. That's the previous video, or the video that I posted today. If I could, I would make lectures, and that would be amazing, and I would solve all the problems in joy, and everyone would love me. I would be a great entertaining teacher for the better. But precisely, and the other aspect is the spiritual self, namely my empirical self has to be sacrificed. Spirit only is real, which is true for me. Of course, it's very difficult to assert this truth, and how am I supposed to convince others that they are spirits if they do not have the knowledge which is required to attain this level of consciousness? This will be my contradiction, because I will probably find myself at some moment in a situation where I say to another, you do not really exist. And then this is insanity, and yeah. I have anticipated partly. So, but the problem is that I cannot lie about my truth of 2018, namely that I know myself to be the whole of reality, and I have tried to implement a political utopias, simply a political situation where people would have leisure and free time to talk with one another, to watch my good videos. I have tried this, but I don't even know if it's possible, because, and here it's, I will use Eminem, I step into the unknown. I know that at some moment I have to negate my singular self. Even if I am not as bad as I thought I was, even if I have good aspect, I have to negate myself in a singular way. This idea comes from Hegel, but here I know Hegel is right, because the false reality cannot go on forever. Maybe it can, but I don't think it does, because precisely I possess this knowledge that real reality is spirit. And here I'm faithful to Hegel. And the problem, for me, it's partly a problem, because it means that I can no longer enjoy the good aspects, which of course there are the daily pleasures, and I cannot deny that I enjoy some good aspect, but what is more costly for me is if I can no longer having interesting conversation, peaceful conversation. If I have to lose my singular self in the coming I don't know, days or weeks, I don't know, or months, I don't know, but let us say coming weeks, it's in between. My regret will be the inability. If I don't know what will happen, but if I can no longer have conversation, if I lose the ability to speak peacefully, my regret, of course, will be not having been able to have conversations, peaceful conversations about interesting topics. That's really what if that has to be the punishment of the negative, Loki or the devil or whatever, well, but otherwise, if I can, I will not sacrifice everything for this purpose, but having interesting conversation, peaceful conversation with another, on an interesting topics, with another which has the knowledge. Well, not if I cannot have a conversation with the European gods and goddesses and footnotes to Plato, most notably, well, that will be the consequence either of a tragic inherent mistake in the system, or wrong decisions, or decision which is good but not as good as the other that I have taken, or whatever. But I still have the hope, the faith that there is, in this world or in another realm of existence, the possibility of experiencing one another's perspective. Eventually, for all humans, this might be the case, but for the European gods and goddesses, and Matthew and me, knowing that my path really has been difficult, but yeah. And now enters a question of what is real. If I have to be honest, I know the truth. Spirit only is real. But love, what is real love? Precisely, human love might be more real than spiritual love, because in human love there is the complete illusion that the other really is another, and also that there is the tender aspect just to hold the other in one's arm, and in the realm of spirit this is not possible. So yeah. So the tragic aspect that confronts me, I knew about tragedy, this part. I mean, I precisely know because yeah, it's tragic, but I have to sacrifice my own attachments, which intellectually I already accepted, or not accepted, but I already became aware of that in 2019. That's when I tried to make the apocalypse for the first time. And these are the kind of moments when what I cling to is my teenage romance, where love was kind of fake, but it was more real because it was fake, because there was I didn't know that she was a part of me, and there was a tender interaction with another, and it was etc. wonderful, etc. And I know that if I choose what I could call my truth, the Hegelian truth, the spiritual truth, I will have to break the illusion, maybe in a kind of brutal fashion for many people, and for people that I care, either individually or as group or whatever. This is probably the negative aspect of what the Christians call the apocalypse, or the Ragnarok, or the end of the Dark Age, or whatever, that there are tension at all levels everywhere in the world, and within my soul. But here I try to take the correct decision, but what my empirical mother tells me is, we want to keep you here, stay with us, the real world is the world of emotions, etc., etc. If you go too high up, people will be afraid, or they will reject you, or whatever. But I cannot, in a way, maybe I knew the answer right from the start. I cannot lie, in a sense that I know that I have to break other people's delusion, because my delusion has been broken. And here, that's the suffering that I share with God, or that God shared with me, namely that I have discovered recently that I am, when I'm here, I'm not playing, but I will not, instead I will not fake, and I will not play the role of the sometimes the scary German, but I genuinely have suffered, and all humans have, but intellectually and morally, more than most people. In a sense, I was not willing to acknowledge my own suffering, because I had the view that God does not suffer, that only me as a human, but actually there is suffering in God. This is why humans suffer. And I will have to, at some moment, destroy or break the delusion. And people, of course, they will resent me, because they are attached to their own delusional self, in a way. and it has taken me an enormous amount of time and suffering and struggle, moral conflict and torment, and I still cannot really accept completely the idea, but maybe the idea of it's the idea of death, but of letting go of my own empirical attachments. And I understand that people will resent me. Whoever will be affected, they will resent me, and I will have to forgive them. But if I can consciously take the decision of keeping the process, and what I imagine doing with my previous video, my lectures, I would make my videos gradually successful, and everyone would like me because I could make good jokes, etc. But by becoming famous, people would stumble upon my previous videos and they would discover my truth on their own, namely that I am the whole of reality. And then there would be a kind of a, here I can only make hypotheses, but the delusion has to end at some moment. That's why all the projects, the hopes of people, that's the kind of question that I've asked myself. Do I have the possibility of maintaining the delusion for others? And here I really don't know. Can I actually, maybe I've already answered. Yeah. Because I've imagined myself, if the delusion ceases, that's what I think. Either I can live as only I disappear as a singular, and I can live as a pure spirit, as a cosmic observer, as experiencing myself as being an individual, which seems contradictory, maybe, yeah, and observing others, which would keep on living their lives as humans and peacefully. And they could have access to all knowledge through the internet. And that's the purpose of my libertarian communist revolution. Is it possible? Do I just have to get rid of myself and some people, which I don't know who, but and then I can become one and observe all the others who would still retain a sense of individuality but work in harmony, or I don't know? Or will everything be reunited together, and we will still have our retrospective, reciprocal and retrospective stories to exchange? I don't know. Yeah. So the question that I have to answer is, what is real? And who do I love most? And here that's very difficult, because if I had to answer who do I love most, as of now, consciously, I would say the European gods and goddesses, because I want to be with them peacefully, and my entire process over the past 7 months has been I've trying to reach them, but I've understood recently that I have a contradiction. The more I try to reach Apollonian Germ and Caroline, they kind of elude me, and whenever members of my biological family try to reach me, I do the same. So I'm trying to escape from my biological family to reach what I know is my spiritual family, and I do the same to my biological family. So I am doing to the relationship between me and the European gods is similar to the ones between my empirical family and me. And I find my empirical family annoying when they don't want to leave me alone. And I know that Apollonian Germ and Caroline, eventually maybe the others, but you too, you probably find me annoying as well. So I'm doing to you what they do to me, and that's my contradiction. So in a way, I'm way too smart while being dumb, but that's the problem. Or the solution, because if I was just smart, it would be I don't know, but yeah. And when did my life begin? Officially on the 16th of May 1992, but I know that this is not my real birth. I was born with my consciousness probably in 1995 or whatever, and my real life, of course, when I say when were you born, 1992, but my real life in a ontological sense began with my love story, my love relationship in 2008. Of course, I do not seriously believe that it began in 2008, but I felt alive when I was in love with Louison, and then I recovered my life in a sense of the living intensity, not just the biological functioning, but the living intensity when I had my spiritual life in 2017-18 with the European gods and goddesses. I felt really alive. And when I can take decision which makes me feel free or courageous, I feel alive on a higher level, in more intensity. And even when I kind of experience pain, it makes me feel more alive. I already knew this, so and the other question. So what is what is real? Because the delusion enables to experience what I call empirical love, also empirical suffering, but all the people who love their parents or their children or their girlfriend, it's part of the delusion within reality, and I have to break this, or to break this. I've already broken this for myself, but to break this for some others, and eventually through the spread of information for everyone else. So that's part of the and there is a moral conflict, a religious conflict between Christianity and paganism, although these two religions coincide, and these are the two true religions. The European religion, that which is called paganism, but actually it's the European religion, which is the one which brings forth Christianity, chronologically, but also then Wechselwirkung, But, so they are the same, but they are different nonetheless, because they are the religion in which man reflects God and God makes himself man. These are the only two religions. The others, they are just moments. Islam, Judaism, the Indian religion, they take one determination of the mind of God or the aspect of God, etc. And from an intellectual standpoint, paganism is more, the European religion is more real because it's a fully self-reconstructing process. But then there's the question of those who have been directly inspired by the Spirit of God. I think about Jean Robin and Dr. Deep State and others in the realm of geopolitics, or those who live in cuckoo land, as I call this. How did this happen? It has to be me somehow in a higher state of existence or consciousness or whatever, or I don't know how it happens, how people receive their spiritual conversion, I don't know. In this sense, I do not identify with the real God, but yeah, they are on a higher level of consciousness on some determinations, but they receive the help from God, whereas the European pagans, they reconstruct themselves the process. And what is more important today? Is it... Because I started this channel, I restarted this channel in February 2022 with the conscious intention of stopping the war in Ukraine against between Ukraine and Russia. That's why I tried to reach a point and jump to stop this conflict. Then, in moment of ontological loneliness, I wished for the existence of conflicts just for the sake of having something to do, I guess. Then maybe I regret, but here that's the pagan self, maybe the European pagan, the sense of conflict can be good when it and the Muslims agree as well on a philosophical and religious standpoint, namely because it brings forth the best out of oneself, the worst also as well, but it's what enables the best to shine. But then there are various types of conflicts, and I've thought about this. I've tried consciously, indirectly, here I'm in a mood to rather laugh, but to bring the military and geopolitical conflicts into the realm of spirit, because I don't want here, the more damages are extended or intense or whatever, the more it's a failure for me, because I don't want the world to... let's not blow this out of proportions. And then I understood that in a political realm there has to be a one world government, but where will I be? Will I be already the spirit? Will the world have already vanished? Or how long will the world last? But there has to be a one world government as long as there is geopolitical conflicts for logical reasons, because there's only one God. And yeah, so here are the contradictions. I don't fully anticipate, but I can think that the world will not disappear, at least for others, not soon in the coming days. It will take many weeks. I don't know here. I don't know. But there is this conflict. So in this sense, there have been some moments when the priority was to stop white people, indifferently white people, from getting hurt. And in this sense, the priority was we stop the geopolitical conflicts to prevent whites or the groups of whites from being hurt. And then there have been moments where it was the moral standards of Germans and Europeans in morals which should be protected, and in this sense sacrificing whites who have become decadent for the sake of protecting innocence and purity and moral standards was the priority. So I have had these conflicts with me. Do we have to save as many whites as possible because they are white? So that would be the anthropological determination, and also non-whites as well, but to the extent that, yeah. And there have been moments when I thought to myself, okay, if whites have to be sacrificed, yeah, as long as the standards, the moral and cultural and ethical standards of the best whites are protected. So there have been these two tendencies. Yeah. Which, in the realm of politics, is reflected in the conflict in the United States and my position in France. I've tried to bring a revolution. I'm still trying in a way to bring. That's why I started the process, which will probably bring me trouble. I wanted. That's what I did on the French channel Phénoménologie de l'Esprit. Start a revolution in France out of moral and philosophical reasons, just to get the attention of the Americans, because if it becomes famous, it will spread to the US, and with all the documents and the intelligence of the Americans, they will understand how to make their own revolution. That's what I thought. But this is the question between spirit and empiricism, because my spirit really lives in the US, but also partly on the European continent, with the European gods on the European continent, Varg, Marie, Carol. But empirically, I cannot start a revolution in a foreign country while being indifferent empirically in my own country. Actually, I understood because of the repercussions, etc. So yeah. So here, and here, the question of love. I know who I love consciously, but I know enough about dialectics for knowing that the people that I don't like and that I try to escape from, the contradiction of my biological family, it will turn probably in the opposite, and I will have to say, okay, that's you that I love, etc. But that's dialectics. That's that's problematic. But this is kind of the thing that I can anticipate, and the same goes with the US and France and Germany. The country that I spontaneously love the most, if I had to answer, I would say the US, but also Germany. But Germany, and the country that I don't like, it's France. But I don't know, maybe I'm programmed to say, okay, I don't like France, but at some moment I would say, okay, I love France because this is what has enabled me to be who I am and for all the good aspects. So, but that's kind of what I call dialectical love. It's it happens sometimes. Oh, I thought I hated this, and then actually that's what I love. It has happened to me. But spontaneous love means one-sided thinking, namely in this sense, I don't like France for many reasons, which are projection of my own weaknesses and flaws, etc. But I spontaneously love the US. But what I spontaneously love has turned into a cause of suffering for the other and for myself so many times that I've become reluctant. The same goes for the European gods and goddesses. So that's why, And if there is a conflict, whether spiritual or social, political or geopolitical or whatever, I don't know, in France, where do I stand? In a region which is torn between France and Germany, and here, I really identify as a German, but then to bring back conflicts of whatever kind between Germany and France, that's the kind of insanity that I blame on the Scots who revolt against the English, or the Irish against the English, or the Catalans against Spain, or the Flamand Wallons in Belgium, or whatever. Don't you have anything better to do than just start another, whatever form the conflict takes? It can be just political or social or economic or whatever, but whatever forms a conflict between European takes, I experience this as a waste. Like, and I know that when I'm really serious, what is most precious for me is Europe, knowing that it's very difficult to define. But for me, it's the soul. But is it people? Is it these are individuals? Is it just a personal experience? That's complex. But on the highest metaphysical level, I know myself to be a German. And when I become really serious, my seriousness, I draw this from Germany. But then there's the metaphysical Germany and the empirical Germany. Sometimes they coincide, sometimes they don't. But, I have tried to reconcile all the contradictions, and on an intellectual level, it's quite satisfying. But then, when confronted with negativity in biological experience in the flesh, it's much more difficult to think clearly and to stand when I'm confronted by anxiety, fear, torment, etc. It's more difficult. But I want, what I call to be good means to stand with a principle consciously and not let go of this principle, and to stand by me. That's a song that I listened to recently by Scala Gray, which is for me the embodiment or the symbol or of Europe as I envision this, the light which stands by the dark. guess. And I in this sense, I am maybe fanatically Hegelian, because the turning, the 3% which were I thought were good, now they become evil, and me, I thought, oh no, I'm starting to become good. That's a dialectical twist. No, I want to be faithful to Hegel. Hegel is the opposite of himself, and he betrayed himself probably. No, but here I have problems with the aspect, the feminine aspect of my empirical family, the absence of an empirical father, which is being reflected in the realm of metaphysics eventually and religion. But I'm still here in the position of trying to impress Hegel. And in this sense, I am a fanatical, for the negative aspect, fanatical rationalist, and a rationalist. Not in a sense I plan everything, but intellect and rationality. And I have invested everything. It's not like, oh, I'm about to lose all I've invested in. No, it's simply that being faithful to Hegel, which means I will not. I cannot say, oh no, my singular self is good. Although I have spent the past 3 years thinking, every time I thought about this, thinking that I was evil or bad. Not completely, and I've grown to appreciate certain aspects of me. Yeah, to love me in a way, some of my qualities. Yeah. But I cannot say, oh, I'm all good, and what I called God now is evil, and I want to live as an empirical individual in a world which I know I cannot live with my lie any longer. Or maybe I can, but I will not pretend that I'm honest. I would simply the contradiction keeps re-emerging with my biological family. I haven't solved this, and I cannot to try to solve the contradiction in a way of saying, I will explain to you, no, let me alone, I will make my videos. No, eventually they will be interested, and I will not suppress my videos out of, not consciously, and not suppress my videos out of a sense of moral responsibility. So eventually, even if I peacefully say, okay, it's gonna be okay, I don't want to see you again, and let me live my life, etc., they will stumble upon my videos, which will become famous with all the contradictory things that I've said. So I cannot manipulate consciously, and I don't even want to, because I would probably fail. So I knew that there would be a moment when I would be confronted by an other, whether someone with responsibility, a doctor, or a person of my empirical family, and I would have to say, in French, eventually in the French language, and not in English, the truth of 2017 and 18, they are connected. It's the spiritual experiences of 2017 which led me in August 2018 to say, I am the whole of reality. And I will have to say to another, it cannot be in English. I would have maybe in English, I don't know, but and to explain, I mean, another, a physical other, which is not me talking to myself, because I can say to myself, yeah, but, and knowing that the probability that this person will be French or speak French, the lack of knowledge of the French, go through all the mediation, the step, IQ, anthropology, the historical process, it would take a very long time, and but this is part of the struggle. If it does not happen, that's why, yeah, I have to use America in terms of intelligence and strength of will and character and spirit and knowledge to convince and convert. These are my contradictions. What I can say is that I understand. I've understood this before the phone call. I've had impulses towards bringing forth the apocalypse in 2019, in April, then in the summer of 2019, when there were tensions internationally, and in 2022, when I restarted this channel. I've done this in April and May with revelations, at the end in the middle of July, at the beginning of July, at the end of August, at the beginning of September. I keep doing this again and again, and each time either it's done more or less consciously and rather calmly, like as I'm doing this as of now. But here it's not let's bring about the apocalypse or Ragnarok or whatever, the end times. It's a peaceful meditation with myself. But every time that I've been really in an anxious mood, and that made me post a video like the one in about my truth in middle of July, and it's because I encounter contradictions, and it is always in connection with harm being done to white people. And in these moments when I say, okay, I have to say everything that I know, this is what happens with this video, so that's how God plays a trick on me. I know how he squeezes the intellectual and maybe moral and emotional or spiritual substance out of me. And I knew at some moment, God, the ego said, okay, you have shared all your light, we don't need you, goodbye. I don't know when it happens, in the coming days or weeks, or if I'm allowed to talk, as long as I can. I will not go into insane mode. I've already had the temptation to do this commando, I sleep 2 hours per night and I work as a fanatical, all the rest. I've done this. I will have maybe to do this, but I don't want precisely. What has motivated many of my decisions recently is I no longer want to be afraid. Yes, I have to confront my fears, but to be constantly anxious, I have precisely to overcome whatever fears. And pain and suffering. And just at someone to say, oh no, and to assert myself, and I could probably try to peacefully solve this problem of trying to assert my identity, but Then I have my moral principle of not deleting any video out of honesty. I will not try to think the consequences. So here I'm being irrational. That's not very Hegelian, or maybe it is. Here I'm talking to God because I know that God knows what I think, and He forces me, not forces me, but I spontaneously say what I know God knows. God knows everything, but what I know that God knows and that I know as well, I have to suffer at some moment, and my suffering is partly caused by whatever I am, but also comes from the fact that I make others suffer, that I do not, I mean, in a way I consciously want them to suffer because they do suffer, but it's unconscious, but I guess it has to be conscious at some moment, which will bring about the healing or the etc. But to hurt others, it genuinely hurts me physically when they retaliate, but also morally, just yeah. And here I will say just an anecdote. I would like to live a joyful life like Jesus or the Buddha and go on a walk the earth and meet people and talk to people and solve all their problems. I would sit with people and say, okay, I give you 4 hours, you tell me your life, I explain you, I can cure you. I could be a very good therapist, and I could genuinely solve most people's problems, because most of their problems, they are my problems as well, if not all their problems. But precisely, I'm intelligent enough to know that this kind of life, at least in this current time scale, maybe differently it might be possible, but given the current scenario, it's not possible. I cannot, for reasons, because my empirical family would look for me, I would be an illegal. I do not have the temptation, but I mean, not now, but of trying to escape and walk the earth, precisely because I have disabled myself. But at some moment, if I think of myself as being able to joyfully bring forth a world, I think, okay, I would like to do this, to be a good guy who walks the earth and solve people's problems. But the tragedy is that I am smart enough to understand that if I explain to them well enough their problems, they would recognize me as being their reflection, and we would mutually recognize one another, and I could not, yeah, so that's my tragedy, I guess. And here, I would say what I think this is kind of the justification for deception and for lying, because deception is what enables to experience joy and surprise, for the good, the bad as well, I guess, but joy, surprise, wonder. In this sense, I'm still, I'm always full of wonder when I discover new aspects of what we are, what I am as a totality, and in this sense, this explains that diversity is our strength. It really is, and this also explains. Here I speak to Apollonian germ somehow. Why I thought too fast, and I try to communicate with you thoughts which were too advanced. Not because of a lack of intelligence for you, but even for me it was too advanced. But that's what the difference. So at some moment it's really good, the negative consequences of diversity, not in a just political social scale, but just variety, is what enables to experience constant wonder for good things, and deception and lying as well. It's like And in this sense, I lie to myself constantly because I do not think of all the others that I encounter. Okay, they are really me. This is only with people that I can talk to and whose mind I can recognize. Yeah. But, yeah. And, yeah, precisely. Here I will say also what I think. I already said this in some of my documents. Whether you, whoever you are outside of myself, you, whenever you watch this, or if you do, or if you can find the documents published, I said that when I have a conversation with an other, and that I can recognize in real time the content of his mind or her mind, and I can almost in real time translate what she says or he says in logical categories, and when the others try to refute me while using categories that they use in ordinary language, but I see almost in real time the program. It's not a program like the Matrix, Neo, the One, etc., but it's a logical program. When it happens, I really do not enjoy the conversation. And here again, maybe that's maybe that's tragic. I don't know, but I would have liked, or I want, and maybe it's not possible. I want to have a peaceful conversation with Stella, the empirical girl, with Apollonian Germ, with Caroline, with Hyperboreans, with Varg, with Marie, with Carol, with Scarlett, with Survive the Jag, with Oleg, with the European gods. But eventually, if we talked with one another long enough, because of what we are, because of what I am, this would lead to the same problem, namely I would recognize the dialectics in your mind, probably. Maybe it would take a longer time, and it would be more difficult, but yeah. But we would recognize one another as dialectically programmed at some moment, or logically programmed, because every expression, every sentence expresses hidden logical categories. And here, let us talk about dialogue. The reason which brings about the kind of problem that I will have, or maybe the solution at some moment, is I wrote a letter to thank a person for reflecting my excess of light, which was negative, but actually it was positive, and I wrote a letter to thank her, and just an ordinary letter. I took, 5 minutes, and the quality apparently of the vocabulary was too complex, although it was an ordinary letter, and it was kind of frightening for the person, I guess. And this is how I try to solve my own negativity with my own recipe. Namely, I know when I'm really confronted just with myself, why am I so negative? Here I use logical categories to try to appease my own suffering, but maybe the suffering of others, when at some moment maybe they will understand me, that I have really negative aspects in terms maybe of morality, or maybe just of negativity, which are explained for logical reasons, in the sense that I can be frightening for myself and for others sometimes because of an excess of intelligence and an excess of brilliance. And here I have to forgive others, and I have to maybe to forgive myself, or to accept myself, knowing that my negativity, sometimes it can be consciously a selfishness, or maybe wickedness, or not maybe, I have wickedness, but sometimes it's just here I don't know, but the idea that just by writing an ordinary letter, or the experiences that I've had talking ordinarily to try to explain my view of the system and seeing that the other cannot follow the pace even when I slow down. These are the 3% which are serious, but they really are frightening. Maybe for God, maybe God is afraid of his own genius, his own brilliance, the real God. And here, I don't know, but when I'm all alone with this view of an awe-inspiring genius, I listen to Interstellar, the theme song. It's a kind of a sublime aspect in terms of really God. Yeah, here I do not identify it, but really is an excess or just a springing forth of infinite intelligence, which creates. Here it's beyond. I would say beyond good and evil. Yeah, it's genius, but genius, when it's beyond good and evil, it's kind of good, but not in the ordinary sense, and it's beyond. It's just and if this awe, this wonder that I've slightly partly experienced in some tiny moments, tiny fragments, if it can be shared without sometimes without the scary aspects of just the wonder, the awe, of the cosmos, I don't know if it's possible, then that would be partly a gift to others. Or otherwise, maybe I will enjoy this, appreciate this, or try to at some moment, but really I will speak here to God, because I know that if I think I will publish the video consciously. I will not even try to think what will I say. Maybe I will take the time to publish another video on the French channel, or maybe I won't. Maybe I will just publish this video. I will go to sleep or read a few books. I don't know. But if I had to talk about God, there are so many aspects within God. There is the reassuring father, the comedian, the fanatical German metaphysician, the sun, who not the sun who shines in the sky, the son of the father. That's partly me when I want to assert myself, and not the negative son, but the one who say, okay, why am I here? And I just want to impress my father, and I deserve to be a little bit hurt by my father when I go astray. Okay, I understand. I may not enjoy it, but I understand. But then also I want to be worthy, etc. There is the lover. There is the judge. There is the scientist. There is well, there is also probably the partly very negative, which is a part of the process. Yeah, but there is there are so many aspects. The child also, the joyful child, who just yeah, that's part also of the. And of course, if I say what aspect would you want to share with the people you love? As of now, consciously, these are the European gods and goddesses, and mostly Stella and Caroline. I would want to share with you what I think is the best in me, namely what I call the twisted, funny side, but also which can be quite romantic in a good sense, and masculine also in a good sense, without the excesses of any determination, but just the good aspects. But then there's also the negative aspects, partly morally, partly the fanatical scientist, the excessive yeah, yeah. But what I consciously plan to do is to listen to Stella, to stand where I am in this apartment. I will probably be forced to move when yeah, because what I'm about to say, when they watch my video at some moment, and when I speak to them about my truth. So in the sense, there comes a moment when I will be confronted with another, and I will say, okay, my truth is that I am the whole of reality, and I can prove you by a scientific ratiocination or explanation, or simply peacefully talk, and I will try to do this as long as possible. So I will still be kind of, I guess, lying, but eventually there comes a moment when I will probably say to another, okay, you are me, I am you. I can, whatever. Yeah. These are the contradictions, but I will try to talk peacefully as long as I can, and to remain calm and stable as long as I can. And maybe this will force me to move away from this apartment. But I had the conscious intention of, the door is open, to let people enter the apartment, any other eventually, if they want to take my books. This was part of my conscious plan. The excesses of provision that I have gathered, I do not intended to take this for myself. I said I would share my property with others. I have shared most of my books in videos. I knew that the ones that I did not share, the right wing, they are on the shelf. On the shelf. I know why I didn't share them consciously, but I have all of them, and I said this. I shared the list. Yeah, so I don't. Maybe I will maybe read a little bit of Nietzsche. Not Hegel. I will try. That's part of the insanity, in a good sense, that I consciously refused, for moral purposes, not to read Hegel, except really up until a few days ago, sometimes the logic of the encyclopedia, which is the simple logic, but the greater logic and the phenomenology, I haven't read them for months, and maybe more than months, and the phenomenology is just the preface that I know very well. These are jokes for myself. So in a way, I still have to discover aspects of Hegel, and I have consciously renounced many things that I consider positive, but that's part of. I can live with that, but I just try for once to stand to a moral principle, knowing that eventually, when I'm confronted by negation, I will try to be brave, or to be enduring, or to be but sometimes I just suffer. And then how do I? That's one of the questions I ask myself. What is the true self? Is it me when I talk peacefully in front of my computer, when I talk joyfully, or when I'm really under pressure? And then, of course, it's much more difficult. And when I endure really suffering, we'll see. People will judge me. They will have to judge me. What is my real self? The truth is the totality. Das Wahre ist das Ganze. The truth is the whole, as Hegel would say. The whole of being, becoming conscious of itself, etc., etc. yeah. So I will upload the video on the channel Eternal Light, and what I think the conscious decision which will the consequences of the decision that I take of posting this video is that I will assert my which has been my truth since 2019, namely my spiritual truth, which it's not that I did with just one video about ethics, which I used. I followed my ethical principles. I came outside, which taught me about, yeah, okay. I tried a Hegelian synthesis to reconcile problems in France. No, it's not a synthesis, it's a concrete unity, etc., etc., yeah. By trying to be I understand myself. But what I mean is, yeah, my truth is, at some level, I am a spirit, and therefore I have to give up my empirical self. And there are people who care about, they care about this empirical self, so it will be a struggle against me versus others aspect of myself who are attached to my empirical self, and I will have to assert my spiritual identity. So I will have to negate, that's how I think, because now when I post this video I can no longer I could try to scheme and to manipulate and to say no, I've already partly done this. It's partly a renouncement already. But no, actually no, because no, precisely no, not completely. But I will not let the door, I will not modify the door. I don't need things, precisely, I don't need things to be written, I need to write myself with my own blood, as Nietzsche would say. I understood this as well. But so maybe I will really die or not. I don't know, because here the question is positive, negative. The world will antagonize me. Maybe I don't know, or maybe not. Maybe it's just me against the 97%, the 3% or the 0.3%. I don't know. But I will discover, for good or bad, but I will assert my spiritual identity, which I know to be the truth at some moment, and my spirit became alive through the European gods and goddesses. In this sense, you really are my first spiritual family, Carol, Varg and Marie, and then Stella, yeah. So Stella, I really tried to start a revolution, just to get your attention. I don't know when or how you will get my message, but yeah. So so yeah, what I think potentially is that I will have to assert my spiritual identity, and then that's not the case, and I will keep probably for a few days or weeks, I don't know, but I will keep talking as an empirical individual, because eventually when people, first I will try calmly to convince whoever I'm talking to watch my videos in French and in English, and And I know, yeah, and I know my truth, and I can defend my truth. I will try to, but yeah. So maybe I will talk publicly, either in French or in English, to many others. Eventually, at some moment, I will have to, maybe or not, or I will somehow not be able to, and then I will just spiritualize myself. And then the question, I don't want an answer as of now, but will I be a spirit living above the world? Or will all things be one? Will things be one with many multiple fragments, and each humans with a consciousness in a higher state of plane of existence will be able to see life through the perspective of others, and then, well, well, yeah. I will end on a positive note. Over the past 7 months, I will just talk about the past 7 months. I've had some really amazing moments. and some difficult ones as well, but I have been unable to share the best moments with others, and I genuinely suffer from that. And I have to love myself eventually, and some of my jokes really are good. And the amazing aspect that I've experienced sometimes of God, not as me as an individual, but as the cosmic God. Here in my mind there is partly William Pierce, partly Hegel, partly Philip K. Dick. It's a God, what I call the genius, which is beyond good and evil, but still being good, but in an awe-inspiring way. Beyond love, but not in the absence of love, but it's really the cosmic view of God. Maybe that's not the highest or whatever, but the cosmic. It's not either the Philip K. Dick view of the very complex simulation program, whatever. It's really the cosmos, the cosmic view of God, which is, I associate this with the sublime. There is the awe-inspiring aspect of the genius. Maybe that's the highest, I don't know. There is the God of love, which has to exist, even if it's perfect love, which includes the negative within itself, but the God of love, that people who experience genuine love for any others, they experience this. There is what I would call the creative genius, but not in the awe-inspiring sense, but in the mind game in a good sense, like, whoa, that's amazing. That would be the Philip K. Dick view. But then there's really the cosmic view, and I don't know how to order, but the cosmic view, the experience of the. That's what Pierce talked about in his writings, at least at some moment. That's what probably the interstellar and yeah, maybe then there's the God of the Buddhist or the Indian, the Brahman, who is joyful, whatever, I don't know, but really this cosmic view, and all the other positive aspects. But I would say the good jokes, they belong just to me, whereas the cosmic view, it's for everyone. Hopefully, or for as many people as possible. And yeah. God is so great that I want to share him with everyone. The good aspects. And in this sense, I will conclude with what I think is my truth on a singular level, but also on a particular level and maybe on a universal level, that I can only experience genuine joy if I can share with others, with an other, and I identify on a singular level with my singular teenage romance, but then joy, happiness, only real when shared, as the movie would say, Into the Wild, Sean Penn. Yeah. And in this sense, my hope, I have to be a little bit hopeful in the Christian perspective, is that the real God will testify that this is my truth, in the sense that if I'm all alone, maybe there is satisfaction, and really I can find satisfaction, and I have found when I can I haven't had the opportunity very often, if not at all, to peacefully read a book and just the intellectual satisfaction, etc., or the jokes of whatever Nietzsche or Hegel or on an individual level, but really genuine joy, the satisfaction I can find in loneliness, yeah, on an empirical level and probably on a transcendental level, but joy, genuine joy, I have to share this with another, eventually with others. And I thought about the European gods and goddesses, but the circumstances, we'll see, well, eventually as many others as possible, all the others, and then yeah, I don't know what is going to happen in the long run. If people can be enlightened for the good suddenly, or if there has to be a gradual process for all, if the education for all in the gradual sphere, I don't know how it's going to happen, but yeah. I will post the video. I will go on the channel Eternal Light. On the other channels, the cultural Hegelianism and the Phénoménologie, la Phénoménologie de l'Esprit, I will not spend the night trying to scheme. I have schemed enough. Maybe the absence of scheming, that's the real scheming. That would be very Hegelian. I will conclude my own. The man that I've admired the most is Hegel, the German philosopher.